It's for sure. Sports can help you get in better shape, develop more muscle strength, and stay healthy overall. Sports reduce the risk of a large number of conditions, such as heart disease, obesity, osteoporosis, and stroke. But that is not the only benefit. Exercise also improves your mental health, such as reducing stress and improving sleep. Research showed that physical exercise helps against somber feelings, anger, and stress. Sports can even help with such serious psychological complaints as anxiety disorders, depression, and psychosis. That's what I'm talking about today. I'm a healthcare psychologist and therapist, and I make videos on psychology and mental health topics. A large scientific research of 1.2 million Americans examined the link between physical exercise and mental health. The subjects were divided into two groups, athletes and non-athletes. They were followed for 3 years. At the end of each month, they reported how their mental health was. For example, whether they had suffered from stress, depressed feelings, or struggled with emotional problems. It turned out that the athletes group had an average of 43% less psychological complaints per month than the group that did not exercise. It's remarkable that the effect was even greater in people who had suffered from depression earlier in their lives. The people who sport regularly experienced on average almost 4 days a month less psychological complaints than the non-athletes. Another study by the European Psychiatric Association analyzed the results of dozens of studies. It turned out that exercise in people with depression is often just as effective as antidepressants and psychotherapy. And people with psychotic disorders also have fewer complaints if they exercise regularly. In addition, they remember things better. The fact that exercise works so well for psychological complaints is because various processes in the brain are set in motion. Exercise releases the neurotransmitters serotonin and norepinephrine. These neurotransmitters have calming effect on the anxiety center in the brain. In addition, they stimulate the part of the brain responsible for planning and controlling impulses. This effect is strongest during intensive sport. This effect occurs by running, swimming, or fast cycling. But light physical exercises are also effective. There are even more great benefits of exercise. The production of stress hormone cortisol is reduced, while the production of feel-good hormones is stimulated. By the production of endorphins and serotonin, among others, people experience a happy high after exercise. But there is some good news if you don't like intensive workouts, because the same positive consciousness change can also occur during meditation or yoga. The positive effects of exercise can be explained not only by chemical processes in the brain, but also by psychological processes. Sports provide distraction. Exercise helps to shift focus from, for example, feeling of anxiety, and when we become anxious, our heart rate increases and we breathe faster. During exercise, our brain learns that does not necessarily mean that we are in danger. While other forms of distraction help, such as breathing exercises, meditation, or reading, the effects of exercise last longer. Physical exercise has even more advantages in strengthening muscles and the stress-related back pain reduction. In addition, exercise increases the feeling of control or the feeling of self-mastery. For example, you may feel proud that you have achieved something. But which sport is the best? In general, it is true that all sports are effective. It doesn't matter whether you regularly walk or run or do strength training. Research has shown that fewer psychological complaints were reported among all athletes than among non-athletes. All in all, any kind of exercise is better than no exercise. Team sports are slightly more effective than individual sports. They have the strongest positive effects on mental health. Contact with others plays a role. Social activities positively affect our mood, reducing feelings of loneliness and isolation. In addition, it's easier to keep up with sports if you train with others. Running therapy is a well-known form of treatment for depression. But the most important thing is that you must like your sport. So choose what suits you. If you are depressed but don't like running, go swimming or dancing. And if you are sensitive to stimuli, maybe yoga or cycling in nature is a good choice for you. But just remember, everything in moderation. According to scientific research, people who exhaust themselves every day doing sports are no better off. It's best to exercise 3 to a maximum of 5 times a week, about 45 minutes at a time. But if you had a 90 minutes workout, the effects diminish slightly. And exercising for 3 hours or more is worse for mental health than not exercising at all. Intensive training often has to do with performance pressure and exhaustion. But if you gradually build up your sport and choose a sport that suits you, almost everyone with psychological complaints can benefit from sports. At the beginning, the psychological issues can even temporarily worsen. But this happens because you have to build up condition, and sports is new to you. When you get through that first difficult phase, you will eventually see improvement. What is important is that you learn to guard your limits, but also that you persevere if your complaints temporarily worsen. And it really helps to better control all your anxious thoughts about work, relationships, or the future if you regularly blow off steam by swinging at a punching bag. And what is your favorite sport? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, don't forget to support this video with a thumbs up, to subscribe and to share this video with your friends. Thank you very much for your attention. See you next time.